The challenge with a high budget film and a low budget film is that one has more money and one has less money. Now that seems like the obvious, but the problems are the same and the challenges are the same. You still have to deliver a film and you still have to deliver the effects. And I find that sometimes not having enough money gives you a creative challenge that gives you creative solutions. And we found on films, going way back to a film we did back in, well, 97, 98, called Pitch Black, we didn't have a lot of money on that picture to do the opening crash sequence. And the director, David Toohey, had said to Ian and I, listen, I don't have any money for this crash sequence, so what you're going to have to do is we got to show the crash from the inside. Because if we showed it from the outside, it's going to be like $1 million, I don't have that kind of money. And so Ian and I, we designed the ship, we designed the sequence itself by storyboarding all the beats, boarding it all out, doing a little kind of lipstick camera animatic, which was, you know, sort of previs in the day, and then ended up doing the sequence with the very limited budget that we had. Double Negative did terrific digital effects. At the time, we weren't doing compositing or anything. But the point is, when you have a limited budget and you know what that budget is, you tend to work within the creative constraints of that budget, and you come up with some actually very clever and creative solutions.
Whenever I think about what is my favorite show, my least favorite show, whatever, when it comes to favorites, I always tend to gravitate back towards Pitch Black. Now, Pitch Black was a film that was directed by David Toohey. I'd previously worked with David Toohey on The Arrival before working on Pitch Black, and we actually got to build some models for him for that movie. And based on our experience with him, he came to us with this other movie he was going to make called Pitch Black. And it was very early in the process. He had a script, and he had the sequence that involved a spaceship crashing. It was a relatively low-budget movie. He was going to shoot it in Australia. But it opens with this spectacular crashing scene to set up the story. And it was a low-budget movie, so how could we shoot this and show this crash in a very effective way, but not break the budget? And that's the conundrum. How do you be creative, but restrict yourself monetarily? And so talking to David, we came up with this idea. You know, he knows every movie frontwards and backwards, and you know, I know a few movies. So we came up with the idea, what about what was in Foreign Correspondent, which is a great Alfred Hitchcock movie. There was a similar scene where there's a seaplane that crashes, and it's all done from the inside, where they actually, you see the footage of the plane crashing, and then the water floods in and the plane floods. So we said, what if we try to do it from the inside? What if we instead show the spaceship a few times from the outside to establish what's happening so the audience knows where it's going and what's happening? But then we immediately always cut inside and get into the character's head and show what they're going through so that the audience is able to experience the crash from the character's point of view. And that budget constriction actually became a plus because it was a very effective way to tell the story. So we came up with a few ideas for the ships. Matthew and I both sort of did a fly-off, if you will, and we both, you know, drew designs. And it turns out Matthew's design was the one that David liked the best, so we used that. And then I boarded the sequence with the intent of narrowing down the number of shots that we could do. And then we came up with the number of models we needed to build for it. Several models were built in a larger scale for close-ups that we could do action scenes on. And then for wide shots, we decided to have one master model, which was the Hunter Gratzner. I'll get back to the Hunter Gratzner in a moment. So we built these spaceship models, got to shoot them. I got to board the scene. It was one of my first actual supervising jobs for miniature effects. And I guess because of our involvement early on in the creative process and being able to follow that process from the beginning to the end, that to this day is probably, you know, one of my favorite projects. The name Hunter Gratzner for the spaceship is an interesting one because when I worked with David on The Arrival, there was this company, it was called Omnicorp at the time in the script, and there was this sort of nefarious industrial company, multinational, that was making these giant power plants throughout the world. Well, as they got close to finishing the movie, it turns out there is a real Omnicorp, and they couldn't use the name Omnicorp, and they had to change the name completely to another one to release the film. So this time around, David was very concerned about inventing false corporate names and not getting burned and having to come up with something at the end. So we were sort of finished shooting the model, and he wanted to know if we could use the Hunter Gratzner name. And we thought, well, Hunter Gratzner Industries sounds like a fake corporation, you know, that you'd have in space. And in fact, on the spaceship, there are Hunter Gratzner Industry logos. We designed new logos to sort of update our old logo. And we applied that to the ship. So we said, no, it'd be fine. Not a big deal. What we did know was that David didn't want to just use the name of the company. He wanted to call the ship the Hunter Gratzner. So it wasn't until we were watching the movie in the theater that the Owens, I believe is the name of the character, the radio guy, like actually announces, this is Merchant Vessel Hunter Gratzner, we're going down. And so we thought that was really great that we're sort of immortalized now in film history as the Hunter Gratzner.